So I'm here at Singapore, or I say Singapore, and I ran into this gentleman called Matt Ray, and I always say my claim to fame in this world is I hired Matt Ray at Chef. He's a pretty amazing dude. But you spoke yesterday at we had an all-day DevSecOps day, and I hadn't been really paying attention to the whole inspect, and I knew you got a commercial kind of compliance product, and I just kind of haven't been in that world as much.
Right.
But I was really happy and surprised to see what this inspect. So tell me about it.
Yeah. So inspect.
Oh, by the way, Matt works at Chef. If you didn't know.
I'm Matt. I work at Chef. I work at Chef I'm the technical manager for APAC. So Chef is expanding over here into this side of the planet. But yeah, so Inspec is it came from a German consulting company we acquired about 2 years ago. They were doing compliance automation for Deutsche Telekom. And as you can imagine, large telco has a lot of compliance requirements. And these are the guys behind the open source project hardening.io, or part of them. It's open source. And they kind of came across the idea that a lot of the auditing and compliance requirements that are tied up in PDFs and Excel and spreadsheets and whatnot, those can be implemented as tests. And so with this idea that your PCI audits, your SOX, HIPAA, whatever standards you're working with, they decided that if we can implement these as tests, let's do it in a nice high-level domain-specific language like spec, like the RSpec family of testing tools. And so what you can do is represent, you've got this Word doc and it says, you can't be running these services, and so the inspec language is a very high-level DSL. It says things like, service finger should not be installed, should not be running, that kind of stuff. So very, very high level. So maybe your auditors could write it, maybe your junior sysadmin writes it, but it's code, right? And it's code, and it also has metadata about how the impact, title, description tags, that kind of stuff. So you can write reports against it, and that code can be versioned, it can be shared, diffed, all that fun stuff. But once it's code, you bring it into your CI/CD pipelines. You use it as a scanning tool to find the things that are going on in your infrastructure that, it's not managed, it's not tied to Chef, it works remotely via SSH, via WinRM, connects to the Docker host, scan the containers that are running. And so that's really kind of changed a lot of how we do business, because it's really easy to get this detect and correct cycle. You find the things that are wrong, you go in, you correct them. It's not really DevOps. I mean, it's the front end of the DevOps things, because you get to a big enterprise, they got a bunch of boxes, they don't know what's going on, and you just say, let's scan the things, find the things that are broken, put the Chef agent on there to fix the hot, the most pressing concerns, your WannaCries, Heartbleed, shell shocks, that kind of stuff. And so that's all open source, Apache licensed, lots of contributions, 150-some contributors, Oracle, IBM, HPE, Microsoft committing code to it, Deloitte, Accenture, PwC, they're using it. So it's a really good open source project for doing auditing compliance scans. And of course, we're an open source business, so we have to have something we sell on top of it. So we have Chef Automate. It's the only thing we sell, and it brings compliance and configuration management together. Gives you reporting, dashboards, visualizations, audit trail across who did what to what systems, and who pushed things out of compliance, if you will. And of course, we package up a whole lot of off-the-shelf compliance profiles, things like Center for Net Security's benchmarks, the CIS benchmarks, SSL, SSH, patching stories. It's the nuts and bolts of operations, but because we package it up with config management, infrastructure as code, CI/CD, it's the on-ramp to getting that DevOps stuff going. So yeah, that's what we do.
And quickly, I said this would be 5 minutes, so and then I'm going to ask you a horrible question, and hopefully Adam never watches this video, but Matt actually really explained Habitat to me yesterday. I've had a couple of people, and sorry Adam if you listen, I finally got a really good. Maybe it just took me a couple of times to get it, but
it's a mind changer.
I'm gonna in short. I think like I was at some security workshop this morning, and they were talking about like how do you manage like middleware and scanning of that stuff, right?
Right.
And I thought about your explanation about Habitat, how you can now kind of use your DSL, which is just shell, right?
Yeah.
Which now becomes you construct from in a container world.
Yeah.
Like, I'll let you go.
Yeah. You're doing good. So Habitat is kind of, I think about it as three things. The first part is it's a build environment that produces an artifact. And so the build environment is completely empty, and you have a plan that describes how you're going to build your application, all the build time dependencies, and all the runtime dependencies. And inside this empty Docker container, we build that full stack application, and we package it in a cryptographically signed tarball that has a manifest that says, here's everything that I was built with, down to the Git SHAs and the versions and all that fun stuff. But that manifest also has, here are the ports that are exposed, how logging's managed, how monitoring's done, health checks, that kind of stuff. And you get this as a full stack artifact. That artifact can be run on a Linux box. We have a Habitat supervisor that can read it, open it up that tarball, run your application anywhere. Any modern 2632 kernel or later, so a lot, Linux from the last 5 years. Run it anywhere, or you export it into Docker. And so that supervisor becomes your PID1 of your Docker container, writes out the Docker file, which ports are exposed, can read in environment variables, and you have this fully managed application inside your Docker container.
Yeah, and just quickly, I mean, just the short, you also kind of manage like, you can kind of, I don't blue green deploy, but you manage the full life cycle, and particularly of like, for example, if there was a middleware that included some type of library that that you guys had built that, and that changes from the source control, would then distribute, even managing the cluster distribution.
So that supervisor, there's a build service that takes the plan for building your app. You publish that. Anytime there's an update to one of your dependencies, maybe, that dependency gets rebuilt, which triggers your application to get rebuilt, reruns any sort of automated test you have, inspect, checks for compliance, and produces an artifact, on the build service. And then that artifact can be promoted to a stable channel, and that Habitat supervisor can do in-place upgrades.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So it's gonna be good.
Well, thank you, Matt. It was awesome. It was good to see you. We hadn't seen each other in a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Matt moved over here. He used to be an Austin guy. And
Austin to Australia.
That's right. All right, dude. Thanks.
Thank you.